started. As long as everybody's ready. Camera ready? All set? Good. Welcome everyone. My name is Joe Eminger, and our firm was hired by the town board to do the reassessment project that you're all going to get notices on in the next 10 days or so. You're going to see what we've been working on for the last year or so, year or so plus. So I want to assure everyone here, okay, the sky is not falling, okay? Reassessment projects tend to cause a lot of anxiety amongst people in the community. And as I was telling a couple of people here who were here earlier, okay, nobody has anything to be concerned about with your taxes unless you're grossly underassessed. Okay, if you're grossly underassessed, and you probably know if you're way underassessed, your taxes are going to go up. But that's only because the rest of the community has been subsidizing your taxes for the past number of years. The goal of the project, okay, any reassessment project, okay, is to create assessment equity. Fair and equitable assessments for everyone. That's simple, okay? Fair assessments, okay? Right now, there are inequities in the roll. Some people are paying too much. They're over-assessed. Are paying too much in taxes. Some people are paying not enough. They're under-assessed. And there's still that group of people who are equitably assessed. And the goal of the project is to get everybody kind of equilibrium towards that middle. Okay? The reassessment project does not raise the tax levy. I'm gonna get into a couple of terms tonight that hopefully you will remember, not only for the rest of this project, but hopefully for the rest of your lives. Okay? Reassessment provides an equitable distribution. That's all. Okay? Everybody has to pay taxes. Okay? Nobody likes to pay taxes, but we have to pay taxes. Your goal, my goal, as a contractor, your goal as residents in the town, are to just make sure that you're paying your fair share. Everybody, you're not getting away from paying taxes. Death and taxes, right? Those are the two things, the two sure things in life, okay? You're gonna pay taxes. You just wanna make sure you're paying your fair share. So you wanna make sure you're not over-assessed. You want, when your notice comes out in less than 2 weeks, okay? The property tax administered by your local assessor, okay, is administered locally. All revenues go to support local services. Different than any other type of government, okay? Different than your county, different than the state, different than the federal. Your town tax dollars go to support the services that they provide, whether it be water and sewer, recreation programs, things along that nature. And the value of your property is based on an ad valorem tax. That's New York state law. That's not the town board law, that's New York state law. Every town, every municipality in New York state has to assess properties at ad valorem, at value. Doesn't say at what percentage of value. We're going to get into that in a little bit, but it says it has to be at a value, certain value. And all property owners pay tax. That's not necessarily true, because as we all know, there are not-for-profits. And not-for-profits don't pay, they don't pay property tax. We're not going to get into whether that's right or wrong. Again, that's the law, New York state law. Okay? Two terms that you need to be well versed in. Okay, we're going to go over it because they're different and they have different impacts. And one you should be paying a lot more attention than the other. Okay, the taxing jurisdiction sets the budgets. Okay, you have your school district, your town, you have your county legislatures. They are the ones responsible for developing the budget. Okay. The budget is revenue from all sources other than other than the property tax is determined. So you're gonna take the town, when the town budget is set, town budgets are approved in November, okay? When those budgets are set and they're worked on, when you work, town budgets are a 12-month, 24/7 project. They're not just set, they don't start working on them in October, you know, to be put in place in November. They're already working on them now, I'm sure, the supervisor and the town board. Okay, so you take your revenues that you need to provide the services. You're gonna need, what's it gonna take to provide those services? So you get your revenues from all sources, okay, except taxes. So you're gonna get state aid, you're gonna get your revenue from your fees that you charge, recreation fees and other fees. And you come down to a number that has to be, that there's a gap. There's a gap between what you gotta pay, charge to provide the service. Let's just say it's $20 million. It's gonna cost $20 million to operate the town. And your revenues account for $10 million. Okay, your revenues from all sources, okay? That $10 million gap, okay, that's the tax levy. That's the number that is applied, the New York State tax cap gets applied to. Okay, that's the number you should be paying attention to from this night forward. What the tax levy is in the town every year. Town, the school budget, county legislative budget. Okay, because if the tax levy goes up, there is a very, very, very high likelihood that your taxes are going up. Okay, very high likelihood. Okay, tax rates. Do not be confused. Elected officials, and I'm an elected official in my town, okay? So when I talk about elected officials, and I don't mean to disparage any of them, because it's a thankless job. It's a thankless job, but it's one that, as my wife reminds me, that nobody twisted my arm to do. Okay? So elected officials sometimes will say taxes are going down because the tax rate is going down. Okay, I can guarantee you, one of the things I can guarantee you with this project is that your tax rate in the town of Seneca Falls will be going down. No question about that. Okay? Don't think though, because the tax rate is going down, that your taxes are going down. We're going to get into that in a few slides. Okay? Pay attention to the tax levy, 2%, the tax cap. Instituted in 2011 for the 2012 year is the tax cap is 2%, the lesser of 2%, or the increase in CPI. Okay, CPI last year was like 6.5%, 7%. So the tax cap for 2023 was 2%, because it's the lesser of 2% or the CPI index. In the early years of the tax cap, in 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, maybe even 2016, inflation was basically zero. Okay, so the tax cap in those years was under 2%. Some years it was like 0.25%. Okay, now with inflation, okay, higher, the tax cap is capped at 2%. Makes it very difficult in the long run to not override the tax cap. You can override the tax cap. School boards, town boards, county legislators can override the tax cap with a supermajority vote. Okay, so if you have a 5-member board, it takes 4 members of the town board to override that the tax cap. And you see municipalities do that often, and you're going to see probably more in the next year or two do it more often, because with the cost of services going up, look at your own budgets. Okay, eggs were $8, $9 a dozen. Okay, that's kind of a bad example, but if they're costing you $8, $9 a dozen, they're also costing the town $8, $9 a dozen. Okay, on a more realistic example, utilities. Your utility costs have gone up. So what do you think is going on with your municipalities? Their utility costs are going up, okay? More than 2%, more than 2%, but that's what they're capped at. They're only, they basically capped at 2%. Okay, so you arrive at the tax rate, and you can't see it all here, but you arrive at the tax rate by taking the tax levy, and this is just an example. These are not real figures applied to your town. It's the tax levy divided by the total taxable assessed value, okay? Taxable assessed value. As I just alluded to a little earlier, not everybody is taxed, okay? Not-for-profits are taxed. And so you take the tax levy divided by the taxable assessed value equals the tax rate. In this case, you have a levy of $10 million. Your total taxable assessment is $500 million. It's $20 per thousand. $20 per thousand. Okay? Like I alluded to, your tax rate will be going down this year. Okay? Remember that although assessments play an integral part in the tax calculation, the tax levy is a controlling factor. Everybody thinks their assessment is a driving factor in your taxes going up. Okay? Most of you, I would presume, most of you have had the same assessment since the last reassessment project. 2015? When was it? 2015? Yeah, 2015. So your assessment has been the same for the last 8 years. Okay? I bet you your taxes went up in the last 8 years. Yes. Okay? So what is it? That just proves what I just said. Okay? Your assessment stayed the same, but the taxes went up because the tax levy went up. Okay? I embrace, as an elected, I embrace the tax cap. I love the tax cap. 2% because I went back in my town, I went back to 1995, 1996, and town boards at that time, they were bragging about how their taxes, they were able to keep taxes down to a 6% increase. Holy smokes, 6% increase. There wouldn't be too many elected officials in New York State if you had 6% increase. But that was the environment that we were in back then. The tax cap limits the tax increases. It makes it challenging though because everybody wants the services. Everybody wants the services provided, and it becomes much more difficult when you have inflationary times that we find ourselves in. Okay, the job of an assessor, a thankless job. It's a thankless job. Okay. It has changed over the last 30, 40 years since when I first got into the business. Okay? They do provide fair assessments by determining the market value of each property. They keep the inventory of all the properties. Okay? And you can check your inventory go on the website, and you can check your inventory. When I say inventory, what they say is at your site, your property site. How many square feet? How many bedrooms? Things like that, okay? They help the taxpayer understand assessments. And this is a big part of the job, processing exemptions, such as the STAR, senior citizens, and veterans. Tomorrow is the last day, okay? March 1st is a very critical day for exemptions, okay? Not only this year, but going forward, March 1st. If you an enhanced STAR, senior STAR, if you have a veterans exemption that you may qualify for, any exemption that you think you qualify for, the paperwork has to be filed in the assessor's office by March 1st. If you are going to take down a garage, you have an older garage, and you want to take it down and you want to put up a new one, okay? You take down your garage, hopefully you took it down today. Okay? Because if it's up on Thursday, it's being assessed. Okay? So whatever comes down, you'll see commercial property owners take down property in February. Why do they take down property in February? Because they don't want it on the tax rolls. They don't want it to be assessed as of March 1st. And vice versa, if you were going to put up a garage, like brand new, if you don't have a garage before, you're going to put up a garage, start it on March 2nd. Okay? That way it won't be assessed. You get a year free of not paying taxes on your garage. Okay? What I try to do in this presentation is I try to do what I would do. I mean, if I was in your seat, which I am, okay, I'm a taxpayer, what would I do? I don't give you one answer and give, I wouldn't give myself the same answer. Okay, I give you the exact same answer that I would give everybody. Okay, so how are assessments handled in New York State? Real Property Tax Law 305 says that assessments must be at a uniform percentage of value. Okay, it doesn't say what percentage. It just says it has to be at a uniform percentage of value, market value. Okay, there are some municipalities downstate, Long Island, who have an equalization rate of less than 1%. Okay, they haven't had an assessment since the Ark. Okay, there are inequities in that role. That ties the hands of the assessor, because the law states, and it's better known as welcome stranger, the law states that an assessor can't increase an assessment based on sale price alone. Based on sale price alone.
Or decrease.
Or decrease. But the property owner has an avenue to get those taxes decreased. And that's the grievance day. And we're going to get into that later. Okay, so while the advantage is all to the property owner. Okay, because inequities, if the longer you go on, not having any assessment practice, there'll be nobody eventually coming into grievance day to challenge their assessment, because they'll all be under-assessed, and they're not gonna come in and want their assessments raised. Okay, so the hands are tied in that regard. Market value, the most probable sale price in a competitive and open market. You've probably heard that before. Willing buyer, willing seller, knowledgeable buyer, without duress. Okay, market value. If you were in a foreclosure sale, that's not a market value transaction. Okay, one of the nice things that New York State did over about 15 years ago, maybe 10, 15 years ago, is the tax bills now show what your town equalization rate is. Okay, in prior years, I'm going to say 15, 20 years ago, they didn't show that. People thought if they saw their assessment at $77,000, they thought, I just bought my property for $90,000. I'm under-assessed. I'm not going to tell them, well, no, they forgot to take into the equalization rate of 77%, which that 77% would equal to $100,000. Okay, so actually they were over-assessed. So, but now when you get your tax bill, if you just paid your taxes earlier this month, if you look on your tax bill, you'll see the equalized market value, and it'll tell you what the town has your property assessed at. And when you get your notice in a couple weeks, less than a couple weeks, it'll also be on there what your 100% assessment is projected to be. Okay, equalization rates. If you're at 100%, you get the full star exemption, not a percentage. And veterans, the same thing. Okay, you get the full star percentage. Your assessed value will be your market value. Doesn't get any easier than that. There's going to be no, you don't have to do any calculating. If they're going to say your property's worth $150,000, that's what they're saying you could sell the property for. Okay, so here we are again, assessment equity. Where equity in real property means that properties are assessed at a uniform percentage of value. 100%. Properties with similar values pay similar taxes. That seems fair, right? That's what we're trying to get. Taxpayers pay their fair share. Everybody's got to pay taxes. You just want to make sure you pay your fair share of taxes. Equity is the goal, always, always. New York State law requires that every property, Real Property Tax Law 305 again, must be assessed at a uniform percentage of market value. When assessment equity exists, it assures that it's being distributed equally. Nobody's paying their fair, too much or too little. Now, I can also assure you, guarantee you another thing, okay? We did not get everybody's assessment correct, okay? When you're doing mass appraisal, you know, when you're doing 5,000 parcels, there's gonna be, I don't like to call them errors, but there'll be omissions, maybe by my firm. And that's what we're gonna give you the opportunity to come do an informal review if you notice those things, and you can come in and talk to us, or call it on the phone or do a Zoom call. We're gonna have multiple opportunities to do it, and you'll be able to challenge your taxes before you go to grievance day, which is at the end of May. Okay, again, if one property is overassessed or underassessed, it means that somebody's paying too little or too much in tax, and the rest of the community could be subsidizing their taxes. It's not fair. It's great for the property owner that it applies to if they're underassessed, but it's not fair to the rest of the community because you're subsidizing their assessments. So this is an example, okay? Hypothetical example. These houses are not in Seneca Falls, but in 2018, their market value for Mrs. Smith and Mrs. Jones, they were both center entrance colonials, and they're both market value estimate is $100,000, and they're assessed at $100,000. Fast forward, for various reasons, now in 2023, Mrs. Smith and Mrs. Jones, the market value of Mrs. Smith rose 3 times to $300,000. Mrs. Smith had a nice bump too. She went up to $150,000. Okay? The assessed values though, because there wasn't a reassessment project, the assessed values are identical still. They're still $100,000. Okay, so what happens in this instance is that you have Mrs. Jones is subsidizing Mrs. Smith's taxes. Okay? Because while her value went up, it did not go up as much as Mrs. Smith. Mrs. Smith is grossly underassessed. Mrs. Jones is just way underassessed. And in this instance, so Mrs. Smith, she probably feels good. She probably feels good that her market value is 150 and it's $100,000 assessment, but she's still subsidizing Mrs. Smith, and that's what we're trying to eliminate with this project. 3 things could happen, and I'm going to go through these 3 scenarios. Some people don't believe, but 2 of the 3 are going to happen in your community. I guarantee it, including this first one. Your assessment will increase and your tax bill will decrease. Okay, your assessment is going to increase and your tax bill is going to decrease. On the left-hand side, the assessment is $100,000. The total taxable value of the town is $50 million. The tax levy put on, this is hypothetical, this is for demonstration purposes. The tax levy is $1,500,000. The tax rate is $30 per thousand. Now, how do you get the $30 per thousand? You take the tax, remember I gave you that example before. You take the tax levy, divide it into the total taxable value of the town, and you got to divide it, you multiply that by, because you're going to come up with 3 cents. When you do that, you come up with 3 cents. But it's tax rate per thousand. So you got to take that 3 cents, multiply it by 1,000, and you get $30. And so your total tax bill will be $3,000. Next year, your assessment goes up 5%. So that's good news, all right? Everybody wants their property assessment, or at least I shouldn't say everybody, I would want my property assessment to go up every year, because that's my largest asset that my wife and I own. I want that asset to appreciate. I don't want it to depreciate. So it went up 5%. The total taxable value of the town went up 8%. So the total taxable value of the town went up at a higher percentage than your personal property went up. And that's what you got to pay attention to in a couple weeks, okay? You got to pay attention to what the percentage increase that your assessment went up and what the total taxable value of the town went up, okay? Because that's going to tell you, in all likelihood, if your taxes are increasing or decreasing. So the tax levy stays the same. The fathers and mothers of the town kept their spending under control. The tax rate went down. And the tax bill is now kind of, you take that 2778 times 105, and that gives you $2,917. You get a decrease of $83, for the year. But pay attention to what your assessment percentage went up and to what the total taxable assessment of the town went up. You could have a 50%, I don't know what the numbers are, the final numbers are, but you could have a 40% increase in your assessment, and if the town total taxable assessment went up 45%, even though your assessment went up a lot, you're probably still going to be, or very close to either a no increase or a slight decrease in taxes. Here's the second example, and you're going to see this. Okay, your assessment could increase, but your tax bill could stay the same, relatively speaking. Same example on the left. What's different on the right? Okay, the assessment went up 5%, that stayed the same. The total taxable value of the town, that went up 8%, that stayed the same. Here's the difference. The tax levy, the number that you have to pay attention to. The tax levy went up 2.86%. Remember, how does it go up over 2%? They did a super override here on the town board, and they needed to raise more in taxable revenue, so they raised it 2.86%. Tax levy went up to $1,542,000. Same math. You have tax rate of $28.57 per thousand. You take that times 105, and you get the same $3,000 that you get when you multiply the 30 times 100. Your assessment up on top. Okay, this is going to happen in the town. Guarantee it. Here's one that is not going to happen. Okay, and thankfully it won't happen. The example on the left stays the same. In this example, your assessment went down. Never a good thing when your assessment goes down, for the reason I just told you. It's your largest asset for a lot of people. You want that assessment to go up. If I have to pay an extra $50 or $100 a year because my assessment went up $10,000, I'll pay that every year. I have no problems. If they're saying my assessment's going up and it's going to cost me an extra $100, $150 a year, I'll do that. Okay, but here your assessment went down. So your asset, your largest asset, is decreasing in value. Not good. The total taxable value of the town went down. That's not good either. That probably could mean several things. Could mean a recession. Could be a number of things. That's why this example isn't going to happen in the town, though, because the taxable value of the town is going up. It's not going down. So this example won't be happening. The tax levy is that same 2.86%. The tax rate now went up, though, because you got the tax levy and your taxable value the taxable value of the town went down, so your tax rate went up, and your taxes went up $85, $86 because of that. First two examples will happen. The third example will not happen in Seneca Falls. Okay? When a municipality is not at 100%, the value assessed gets confusing, and that's what I kind of mentioned a little earlier. You're going to look at your tax bill in prior years, and it's not at 100%. They could say you're assessed at $77,000, and and you're thinking you're assessed at your full value is $77,000. If you don't read the fine print on your tax bill, that tells you what the full value is. So that's there. Last year we were at 77%. That was the equalization rate for the town, meaning that if you were assessed at $77,000 last year, your full market value was at $100,000. Okay, previous year it was 85%. So you can see property values are going up. They're going up all over, just not Seneca Falls. I've seen numbers for municipalities this year who did not do a reassessment project that their equalization rate dropped from 80% to 65%, 15% drop, okay? The norm, I would say, is probably 10% drop, okay? Property values are still continuing to go up. I wish I could explain to you why during the pandemic, property values skyrocketed. You know, when the pandemic started, us in the appraisal business are sitting there going, property values are going to drop. Boy, were we wrong. We were wrong. Property value, residential property values went up all over New York State. So it's easier to understand your assessed value when it equates to your market value, full value of your property. Another reason why you want to do a reassessment project. So nothing that takes place during the project by my firm or the assessor will change. Oh, what happened there? Okay. Nothing will change the total value, dollar value to be raised by the tax levy. The assessor does not control the tax levy. Okay, hopefully you understand that by now. I've gone over that a couple times. School boards, county ledge, fire districts, town boards. You know, any taxing jurisdiction controls the tax levy. This is a valuation project. It is not a taxation project. People, when they hear about a reassessment project, they think it's a taxation project, just trying to, no. Okay, this is a valuation project. The only thing that the assessor is charged with, and my firm is charged with, is putting market value on your homes or businesses. We don't create the taxes. The assessor doesn't create what the tax levy is going to be. Okay, so why are frequent assessments needed? Okay, the real estate market is constantly changing. I get asked, especially over the last, I would say 2-3 years, when I do these presentations, yeah, sure, property values are going up. You know, we all see that. But what's going to happen when property values go down? Okay, well, if the town boards are doing their job, they're going to have another reassessment project. But please, okay, please, don't think that that's going to lower your taxes, okay? It's not, unless they lower the tax levy. The assessor could lower everybody's assessment 50% in the town of Seneca Falls, okay, for this year. She lowered your tax bill would be the same to the penny that it was last year, to the penny, because she did it to everybody. She lowered everybody's assessment 50%. Okay, again, just proving that assessments, yeah, they're part of the equation, but remember, you only want to pay your fair share. You want to make sure your assessment is a fair assessment. If it's not fair, then you're going to call me up in a couple weeks, and we're going to meet, and we're going to talk about it on the phone or wherever. Okay? Not all properties would change in value at the same rate, okay? Waterfront properties appreciate at a different value than a property next to an industrial plant, okay? Over time, if you don't do a reassessment project, that's where you get the inequities, primarily. Okay, as value changes, so does your share of the tax levy. You only want to pay your fair share of the tax levy. So how is market value determined? How do we do it? How do we do what we're doing, okay? My firm, the assessor, we do not create the market, okay? The market is created by the buyers and sellers in the marketplace, okay? The residents of the community. That's who determines what the market value is. But Joe, I got in a bidding war on my house and I paid $40,000 over asking price, okay? Well, I have a saying, okay? One nut does not make a market. If you have 3 or 4 nuts, that's the market, okay? One property that sells for way overpriced isn't gonna affect anything. But the market, unfortunately now, over the past 3, 4, 5 years, you have a lot of people, supply was down, of homes was down, and you had multiple bids on properties. And you're still seeing people paying over asking prices, although not as frequently as we did last year or the year before. So it's determined by the interaction of buyers and sellers. It's not determined by the assessor. It's not really determined by my firm. All we do is look at the data, what they're selling for, and make adjustments. We analyze the sales to establish the market value estimates, and our firm uses only licensed appraisers to do that work. And the assessor uses several comparables, more than several. We'll have 4 or 5 comparables that your property, your homes, will be compared to in the project. So what drives market value? You probably already know what I'm going to say next, okay? Location, location, location. It was this 5,000 years ago, that held true. 5,000 years from now, it's probably still going to hold true. Location, location, location. Number 1 driving factor. 2, again, some locations are more desirable, whether it be lakefront or lakeview property. Some people like to be out in the country. They want to have a more private setting as opposed to maybe right next door to their neighbor or their mother-in-law or father-in-law. So what drives market value? I love my mother-in-law and father-in-law, by the way. Okay, they raised a great girl. What drives market value? Economic influences, okay? These are things that we really don't have a lot of influence over. Okay, you go into a recession, you don't have any pandemic, we don't have any control over those things. Okay, house style, this is a big one. Okay, house style, ranch homes sell for more per square foot than do any other style home. Why is that? Because there's a huge demand for them. Again, economics 101, supply and demand. The baby boomers now are downsizing, and they want those 1-story, bathroom, bedroom on the first floor, no stairs, or very few stairs, and that plays a big influence on the style of home. So they're the most popular. Size of the land, type of land, interest rates. Okay, interest rates over the last 6-7 years had a dramatic impact on why property values were increasing. Again, supply and demand. We had interest rates under 3%, as recently as last summer. Okay, so what does that do? If you have interest rates at 2.5%, you have young couples. I shouldn't even say young couples, but you have more people who can afford a more expensive home. Okay, when I got my first mortgage in Iowa, I got a deal. I got a steal of an interest rate, 14%. It was a steal. Okay, I know people who, a few years before me, they were paying 18% in interest. So that had the opposite effect. Because the interest rate was so high, they couldn't afford to pay more for the home, because they could afford $1,000 a month. Whether the interest rate was 18%, maybe that payment then goes down to they could only afford $800 a month. So it takes the people out of the market. The higher the interest rate, you're going to have less buyers for the market. And if you have less buyers for the market, it's going to impact home prices. The opposite effect happened over the last 5-7 years. You had low interest rates, so that was bringing more people into the market, bringing more bidding wars, okay? And now that interest rates are up now, 6.5%, things have calmed down a little bit. Property values are still going up, but nowhere near where they were last year, 24 months, 36 months ago. The average increase was probably 10 to 15% a year over the last 3-4 years. Per year, okay, per year, okay? I think you're gonna see that come down in the coming years. Hopefully it'll still continue to go up, but not at the same rate. Okay, availability of amenities and jobs, another influence of market value. Commuting distance to industries, okay? And obviously the condition and amenities on a property, they obviously impact market value. Okay, what changes in property value? Okay, different types of properties in different locations change in value at a different pace. Like I said, gets back to location, location, location. If you're on the lakefront, you're going to be paying, your values are going to be going up at a higher rate. After a period of time without a reassessment analysis, all property values, the equity may diminish. So like I said earlier, that community over in Long Island at under 1%, they got so many inequities in their role, I hate to even think about it. We got asked to do they were considering doing a reassessment project. This goes back 8, 9, 10 years ago. And they asked us if we wanted to go down to Long Island to do it. And I said, no way. Can you imagine the uproar? They decided not to do it. I think the elected officials got worried, and probably rightfully so. I can't imagine what they'd have to go through to get that, to do a reassessment project now. And we did a project in the city of Olean, 2008. They were at, this is the lowest one that we've ever done. They were at 12%. Their equalization was at 12%. So when we did the project, we brought them up to 100%. So at a meeting like this, I told them, I said, if your assessment goes up 8 times, so if you have, if your assessment was $20,000 and your new assessment's going to be at $80,000, in all likelihood, your assessment's probably going to go down. I mean, your taxes are going to go down. I said, their assessments were going up, like I said, 8, 9, 10, 12, 15 times. For the ones that were way under assessed, they were going up 15 times more. A lot of inequities in that role. I'm happy to say that project, because of the communication that we had, meetings like this, the project went off without a hitch, knock on wood, and one of our more successful projects, actually. So, again, what you have to ask yourself, when you get the notice in the mail, what you have to ask yourself, is that a reasonable representation of what you think you could sell your property for? Okay, if it's close, rip up the notice, you don't have to do anything else. Okay, if you think it's too high, call me up. There's going to be an informational number that you can call up. We can talk it over, and then we're going to get into the informal process. Okay, we use every tool at our disposal. Okay, when I say okay, we use MLS. Okay, MLS. We went out. I'll describe what we did. We went out over the course of the last year, and we personally inspected from the right-of-way every property in the town. Okay, from the street. Okay, we looked at the inventory, what the town had on the records at your property. When I say on the record, was it a Cape Cod style home? Was it an old style home? Just verifying that information. There are things that we saw on some properties. There was a 2-car garage instead of a 1-car garage. We made that change. Okay. Condition. If the condition of the home, we base it. We're not going, as you know, we did not go in the inside of your homes. Okay. We still live in the United States of America. We cannot go on the inside of your home unless the property owner invites us in. Property owner invites us in. We'll go inside the home. And we're happy to do an inspection of the property. We base the condition of the property based on the exterior condition of the home. So if your home was in average condition on the outside, we're going to assume it's average condition on the inside. Is it a perfect method? No. Okay, because some people, on purpose, I've been in communities who did this, not here, but I know people who, on purpose, let their outside of their home get run down. On purpose. God only knows why. Didn't paint, let the roof go longer than they should have, okay? And all because they didn't want the assessor to assess their property as in average condition. They wanted it to be in fair condition, okay? That happened in Delaware County. That happened in Delaware County. So we looked at style of home. Your home, as I alluded to a little earlier, got compared to 5 homes in your neighborhood. There are various neighborhoods in the town. We didn't take lakefront homes and compare them to properties that don't have lake frontage. Okay? We didn't compare apples to apples. Old style homes got compared to old style homes. Hopefully, for the most part, in the same neighborhood. And what does a neighborhood mean? Neighborhood is more than a 2 or 3 block area. Neighborhood, could be, a square mile, 2 square miles. How many neighborhoods in the town? 5. So there are 5 different neighborhoods. The lake being one of them. Okay, so there are 4 outside of that. Okay, so we compare similar style homes in the same neighborhood. Some homes are what we call outliers. Maybe there's a 3,000 square foot Cape Cod style home, which would be a very large Cape Cod style home. We may have had to go into another neighborhood. We're not going on the lake though. If it wasn't on the lake, we're not going on the lake. But we may have had to pull it in from another competing neighborhood, I guess, for lack of a better word. We're adjusting for condition, grade of the improvements. Whether you have garages, we adjust for bathroom counts. We adjust for bedrooms, not so much, because people convert bedrooms into other uses. Cape Cod style home, some people convert one of their first floor bedrooms, they'll convert that into a dining area. So we're not too concerned about bedroom counts. Although if you have 1 bedroom, I guess that'd be a little bit of functional obsolescence if you only have a 1-bedroom house. 2 bedrooms, not so much anymore. 2 bedrooms used to be functional obsolescence, but families are smaller now. Okay, my wife was one of 10. Okay, they had 3 bedrooms in the house. Okay, and my in-laws had their grandfather living with them at the same time. I don't know how they did it. 9 girls, 1 boy, and 1.5 bathrooms. They did have a bath and a half. My father-in-law's a saint. So we adjust for that. Location obviously, comes into play. Lot size comes into play, and what we don't know is the condition on the inside of your home. Okay, like I said, we're basing it on the exterior of your condition of your house. That's what we're basing it on. So people, when they get their notices, they'll call me up and they'll say, Joe, my inside of the house, I have a kitchen that hasn't been updated in 60 years. It was 1960 the last time it got updated, and that, that's it. Okay, that could be a reason for an adjustment to your assessment. Okay, so you'd want to make us aware of that situation. If you had this time of year, a lot of people, we get complaints just because of the time of year. My backyard is wet. Well, show me a backyard that isn't wet in March or April when we're having these hearings, okay? I take that with a grain of salt. Unless there's a lake, ponding, in the backyard, everybody's backyard is going to be damp, so to speak. But you want to make aware, if you're redoing the home, okay, if you bought a home and last year, and you're handy and you're gutting some of the interior walls, and all that you're down now is to the studs, okay, we want to know about that, because obviously your home is worth less when you only have studs as opposed to actually painted walls or papered walls. So we tell people, take pictures of the inside of your home and send them to us. Okay, that's another way that you can enhance your case or lower your assessment. If you have an appraisal, okay, I would say outside of the sale of your home, okay, if you purchased your home in the last 2 years, 3 years, okay, and we should have a record of that. That's one of the 5 sales I'm sure that we considered, if it's a market level sale. That would have been one of the 5 sales we considered. But if you have, the sale is the best indicator of value, assuming it's a market level transaction. An appraisal is more than likely the second best indicator of value, if it's done by a licensed appraiser, okay, and they're not related to you. Okay, send that, get that appraisal to us, okay? If you refinance your home, you had to have an appraisal, you have an appraisal done. So get us that information. Quite frankly, if we assess your property for $150,000 and you had an appraisal, this is where I probably say too much, but I'm just telling you what I would do. You have an appraisal of $190,000. You can call us up and let us know that you want your assessment raised, but don't feel obligated. Okay. But that being said, if we have there's no two homes that are exactly alike. Okay, I'll get that call all the time. A couple weeks from now, oh, my neighbor's house, it's identical to mine. No. Okay, there are no two homes that are identical. One might have a finished basement, one might have an upgraded bathroom or kitchen. I haven't seen 41 years in the business, I have not seen two identical homes in my life. That doesn't happen. But let's just say we have two homes side by side. They're both assessed for $150,000, but one of the homes just had a $60,000 bathroom, or I'm sorry, kitchen remodel. Okay? We don't know about that. I mean, maybe there's a building permit. Hopefully there's a building permit, hopefully. Maybe there isn't. We don't catch that. Okay? But then how do you think that neighbor who doesn't have the remodeled kitchen, what do you think he's going to do down the road? Hello, Madam Assessor? My neighbor has a $60,000 remodeled kitchen, and you don't know that. Well, we can't do anything at that point. But 4 or 5 years from now, you do another reassessment project, you keep that, you make a note on the file, and guess what? The next time around, they're not going to be like that. Neighbors blowing neighbors. That's basically what I'm going to tell you. Because money. Okay, money is the root of all evil. Money will cause people to do things, and if somebody's getting away with something, their neighbor's getting away with something that isn't right, they're going to let somebody know about it, whether it be somebody on the town board or the assessor. These are the important dates. Okay, public meeting did not take place in January. It's taking place in February. But impact notices will be mailed out very shortly. Informal hearings will take place in March and April, and that is exactly what it is. It's an informal review of your property assessment, offering 3 forms to do that. You can do it via Zoom, do it via telephone, or you can do it in person. Okay, most of the people, quite frankly, I think would be all right to do it Zoom or telephone. If you can't get to, if you don't have access to getting, if you have an appraisal, if anybody has an appraisal, they should call up. There's an information number that you're going to have. Call up, and you may be able to avoid going through the informal, the formal informal review process.
What's the timeline on the appraisal? You don't want one that's 10 years old.
Oh, no, good question. Okay, that appraisal cannot be older than 2 years. And 2 years is probably stretching it. I'd like it within a year, but 2 years, you can probably do something with that. So you're going to come to the informal review, and it's a very informal process. It's a one-on-one conversation on the phone or Zoom or in person with myself or somebody from my firm, and we're going to talk about your property. You're going to tell us about your property. You lived there for 40 years. This is what we got. Sales, you're going to have sale. We're going to have sales. The sales are going to be on the town website as well. You can look for sales, what your homes are looking for, and what they're selling for. So the burden of proof is on the property owner. So the burden of proof to prove that the assessment is wrong is on the property owner at every level of challenge, whether it be the informal review, the board of assessment review, or small claims assessment review, SCAR hearings. The burden of proof is always on the property owner. We will share with you how we arrived at our value. We'll show you the sales. And just be realistic, okay? If you know what homes are selling for in your neighborhood. And you can say, okay, yeah, it's, it's 3,000 or 4,000 too high, but it's in the ballpark, Well, as opposed to $50,000 too high, you better call me, then you better call me, okay? So once we have those informal reviews, and those are in March and April, okay, the tentative, you're gonna get a letter from the town that will tell you the result of your informal review. It'll say, the good news is, okay, the good news is, the assessment can only go down. We can't raise your assessment, okay, unless we find out something. I've never done it, but there may be an instance where maybe there's something that just comes up that would make us raise the assessment. But I can't think of it. I don't think it's against the law to do it, but we've never done it. So if you have questions, come to an informal review. We want participation in the informal review process. Okay, it's part of the project. It's part of a successful project is to get people involved in that process. Okay, you're going to get a letter prior to May 1st, because on May 1st, the tentative roll gets filed. Okay, if you're not happy, Joe, you assessed me at $150,000. We came into the informal review. I thought it was worth $130,000. The reviewer only lowered it to $140,000. Okay, so they got $10,000 in relief, but still not what they think it should be. You can go then to the Board of Assessment Review, the bar process, grievance day, and that is on May 23rd, fourth Tuesday in May. Okay, that's a more formal process. That's before a panel of 3 to 5 members of your community. Okay, they record it. You make you raise your right hand, swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. And you still basically do the same thing that you did in the informal review, but it is a more formal process. You go through that process, and let's say the grievance board decides not to give you any relief. So you're still stuck at that $140,000. You're not happy. You think it's worth $130,000. You got good sales to justify it. You're going to get a letter after grievance day that's going to tell you there was no relief. The final roll gets filed on July 1st. So you're going to get that letter from grievance day prior to July 1st. And then if you're not happy with the grievance board results, you can go to what we call Small Claims Assessment Review, SCAR, a SCAR hearing. That's a one-person panel. One person will decide the fate of your assessment. There's no more avenues of relief after that. Whatever that person decides is going to be the assessment. There is no charge for the informal review. There is no money or charge for the Board of Assessment Review. There is a $35, at least I think it's still $35 filing fee for the SCAR hearing. Okay, and if you are successful at the SCAR hearing, many of the hearing officers will tell that you got to refund that money, so you may get the $35 back. Okay, if you get to the SCAR hearing that far, you should really, in my professional opinion, you should hire an appraiser at that point. You don't need one for the Board of Assessment Review. You don't need one for the informal review. But when you get the SCAR, you should hire an appraiser. It's going to cost you $450, $500, and they can present your case. You can present the case to the hearing officer. After that decision is made, you're done for the year. You can't do any more. You've exhausted all of your remedies to try and get your assessment reviews. But the good news is you can come back next year. You can do the same process over. There may not be informal review process, but you'll have the grievance day and the SCAR hearing that you can go through it. So some of these things I already talked about as I rambled on here. So we're going to talk about, most of the information is that the assessor's office is open to the public. Check the town's website, assessor's office, for information regarding assessment and sales. After you get your notice, you'll be able to make an appointment for your informal review Okay, after you get your notice. It says after 3, so it'll be around 3/1/23. After you get your notice, you want to schedule your formal review, you're gonna get a number. You're gonna get your notice, and you're gonna get an information packet. Does everybody have one of these? If you go to your last page, you will see a blow-up of this. Okay? This is what your notice is gonna look, pretty much what it's gonna look like. Okay? And I'm gonna go over this just so everybody understands maybe more important information on here that you should pay attention to than other pieces of information. Okay? First thing you should look at is on the right-hand side, the top, exemptions. Okay, you want to make sure if you have an enhanced star exemption, a veterans exemption, any kind of exemption, you want to make sure that it's noted under the exemptions in that upper right-hand corner. Okay? This one just has a standard residential star exemption. Okay? This is a state form, and unfortunately, some of the things that the state does are better than others. This is one thing that they don't do that well, in my opinion. They're going to give you last year's assessment, and it'll be assessed value, and they're going to give you this year's assessed value. And there's a difference of $66,800. I wish they would move that net change number over to the market value, because that's really what you should be concerned with. You should be concerned with the net change of your market value, not the net change of your assessment, because your equalization rate is 77%. You're not comparing apples to apples there. Where if they did it under market value, they would be comparing apples to apples. Unfortunately, we can't control, that's the form, it has to go, that net change has to be under the assessed value. Look over under market value. In this case, it went from $237,922 last year. This year, again, hypothetically, it went to $250,000, an increase of $13,000. Okay, just looking at this and what I know, I can tell you that the taxes are going to, even though the assessment went up, the taxes are going to be going down because it went up. That didn't go up a lot. The assessment went up actually 36%, I believe. So it went up 35–40%, the assessment, that's $66,800. But again, it's the market value that you got to be paying attention to. And then on the bottom, they give, we're going to give you a hypothetical example, an estimate, based on last year's tax levy and tax rates. Okay, and why is it last year's? Because the budgets have not been set yet. The budgets, as I alluded to a little earlier, the town budget doesn't get set until November. We have no idea. Nobody knows what the town budget's going to be at this early, part of the year. School budgets get set in May. Okay, nobody knows what the school budgets are going to be. So they do a hypothetical example using what your proposed assessment is based on last year's information, based on the tax levy. The good news is, for the most part, really the tax levy is probably going to be 2%. It isn't going to go up 5, 6, 7% like it did 20, 30 years ago. Okay, it's tied to a tight number. Again, it's just an estimate. It's not going to be. It doesn't include special district taxes. So if you have special district taxes, it's not going to be in this estimate. I'll get a ton of calls. Joe, I didn't pay that number in taxes. Well, it's because your special district taxes, your fire district, if you have water and sewer special district tax, it's not going to be in that number because we can't do property specific in that instance. We got to do something at a rate that applies to the whole town. And then on the bottom, it gives you the information about grievance day, when that's going to be. It'll say May 23rd, 2023 in that instance. And then it gives you some hyperlinks so you can go to these pages and see how you can challenge your assessment. Okay. On the back of that page, or on another page, you're going to get an informational letter. And on that informational letter, it is going to tell you what you should do now that you have your assessment. If you think you're overassessed, you should, and you have a question, there's going to be a number for you to call. Okay, that number goes right to my desk. Okay, if I'm not around, somebody else will pick it up. If I'm around, I pick it up and you talk directly to me. You can call that number, and you're gonna see it in a few minutes. You can call that number, starting tomorrow. If you just wanna say hello. Then call that number, and if you just have a little anxiety, you're not sure, okay, call the number. If you want to speak to me, you can just, if somebody else picks up, say you want to talk to Joe, and I'll get back to you.
Joe, excuse me, I got a couple questions. Okay?
Sure.
First of all, you never answer the phone when I call, first of all. Second of all, were commercial properties involved in this process?
Yes, yeah, we evaluate commercial properties, they're.
Industrial properties?
Yep, commercial, industrial, vacant land, every property in the town, agricultural,
Okay.
farm, everything got reassessed. Thank you, Supervisor. The means for appraising those properties, commercial and industrial properties, are different than on a residential home. Okay, you won't have 5 comparable sales with a commercial and industrial property. You're doing it off of what properties are selling for in Seneca County. If they're selling for $30 a square foot, you're applying to that. So there's not 5 sales, not a grid. If you're challenging your assessment on a commercial property, you go through the same process, the informal review, exactly the same process. Board of Assessment review, the same process. But the SCAR, the Small Claims Assessment Review, does not apply to commercial properties. When I say commercial properties, it's 4 families or above. Don't qualify. You have to go through what they call Local 7. You have to engage an attorney. It's a more expensive proposition. When you'll have to hire an attorney. They may do it on contingency. You'll have to hire an appraiser. They won't do it on contingency. Okay, it's probably going to cost you, if you have a commercial property, could cost you, just to start, could cost you $4,000 or $5,000. So you're going to get the information. It's going to tell you, they're going to give you a number to call if you have questions. Then it's going to give you a number to set up an informal review. We have a scheduling service that you'll call that number, and they're going to say, we have a variety of dates that you're going to be able to come in and call us, or Zoom with us, or I'll be coming out here to do the in-person meetings. And if you have questions, and a lot of people have questions, don't hesitate to call the number. There's no such thing as a dumb question. Okay. We're here to help you. And it may sound cliche, but we know anxiety levels get right. We know there are people who maybe have lived in their home for 60 years. And this is change is difficult for some people. We take pride in our informal review process because we are an extension. This is what I tell my people who work with me. We are an extension of the town government. Okay? If you don't get treated with respect in an informal review, you call me. You call me. That should never happen. I'm happy to say it's probably only in 15 years we've been doing this, I can remember only twice that it's happened. And that person, different people got here. Okay? If anything, you're going to get killed with kindness. Okay? We're going to tell you exactly what you should do if it was us sitting in that chair. As God is my witness, I'm going to tell you. Okay? If I think you have a great case, I'm going to tell you. Okay? I think you got a good case here. We're not going to tell you what the number is, though. When you come to the informal review, people will say, "Oh, you're going to make the pitch," and they're going to say, "Okay, what's my assessment going to be?" We're not, no. We got to do more work back at the ranch when we get back. We're going to look at it. If I think you don't have a case, I'm going to tell you. If I don't think you have a case, I'm going to say, I don't really think you have a good case here. I mean, you can certainly do it if you want, but you got to realize that these are the obstacles you got to get over. Okay, Joe, I bought my property for $200,000, but I got in a bidding war. I mean, like I said earlier, that's going to happen. People are going to call me on that. All right, you got to prove that $200,000 because your sale is going to be one that's used. But what about the other 4 sales that we used? Well, they were all in bidding wars. Well, that's the market. That's the market. That's the market we live in, okay? Maybe it'll change next year, the following year, but that's the market that we're in right now. So this is a good example of what you're, pretty much what you're gonna see. And then, like I said, there's gonna be an informational letter that's gonna tell you what numbers you're gonna call and when you can call. Okay. What you want to do when you're challenging your assessment, you want to use similar style homes. Okay. If you got a ranch style home, which I said earlier was the most popular, don't give me a 1,600 square foot home that was built in 1910. Okay, old style home. It's got to be an arm's length sale in the last 3 years. Check your inventory, make sure the square footage, bedrooms, bathroom, etc. are accurate. If they're not, let us know about it. That's a thing you can call up on the phone. That's a thing. It's a joke. They got me for 2.5 bathrooms. I only have 1.5. Okay. Square footage, we may have to come out and inspect. If I get the impression, and I've been doing this a long time, if I get the impression, and I'm pretty good at this, that you're not being totally truthful, I may want to come out and check your 2.5 bathrooms, or your 1.5 bathrooms, okay? We use MLS, multiple listing service. What do people do in multiple listing service when they're trying to sell their home? They rave about their properties, okay? They talk up their properties, okay? We just had a $40,000 kitchen remodel. Oh, isn't that nice? Make more note of that. Okay, that's how we find out these things. Okay, it's a useful tool for us, and people have to realize when they call up and challenge our assessment that we know a lot of information. We know more information about your house, with the exception that we haven't been on the inside of your house. Okay. Again, let us know if there's incorrect information. The Board of Assessment Review, I told you all that. That RP 524 grievance form, that's a 4-page form. That's the more formal problem. The informal review, very informal. The Board of Assessment Review, there's a 4-page form, RP 524. If you type in RP 524, you Google it, it's going to come up. It'll come up right away. You fill that out to the best of your ability. STAR hearings I went through, court challenge. If we do the Article 7 commercial properties, you got to have an attorney. So the burden of proof is on you. I said that earlier. All levels of the grievance of the challenge process is on the property owner, and you must present convincing, compelling evidence that the assessor's judgment was incorrect. We're not perfect. Okay, my firm, like I said earlier, we are going to miss a few assessments, okay, and we're relying on the property owners to make us aware of that, because we have no gain in this. Whether we have no skin in the game. We want to make sure that you're assessed fair and equitable, okay. The assessors have no interest in undervaluing or overvaluing your home, okay, no interest whatsoever. They want an equitable assessment role for a fair distribution of the real estate property. A little earlier on, you saw a pie cut up in different slices, different ways, okay? That's the tax levy. That was the tax levy, okay? It's only going to grow by 2%, okay? So you just want to make sure that those slices are sliced correctly. The size of the pie isn't getting bigger. So that's why it gets back to you got to make sure that your assessment is fair and equitable. So in the year of a reveal, here's some facts and bits. I'm not going to go through these quick. The tax rate usually decreases. The tax rate is going to decrease. Okay? Don't get caught up in the myth, though, that your taxes are going down just because the tax rate decreases. That's not the case. That's not the case. Okay? If the municipalities need more money, they will raise the levy, causing a higher tax rate. Well, that's true. I mean, if they need more money, their revenues are only from what they're drawing from their programs that they're generating from and their grants. If they don't have that, they gotta raise taxes. Your assessment does not raise your taxes, and I said this earlier. I made that. Your assessment has stayed the same since 2015, but your taxes are going up. Why? Because the tax levy went up. Okay, pay attention to the tax levy. Hopefully I said that enough times tonight. Key to the tax rate, what is the levy? Has it increased, decreased? That's stayed the same. That's going to be the more determining factor of your taxes. So going forward, a few weeks from now, we want to look at how much your assessment went up percentage-wise compared to what the taxable assessment of the town went up. And that'll give you a good idea of what's going on. Okay? That's the facts. Go through these quick. Assessors raise value in response to taxing district pressure from revenue. The town needs more money. No, that's not true. Fact, the values change in response to economic changes. The supply and demand, the buyers and sellers create the market. Okay, tax rates should drop. Yep, we went over that a number of times. Okay, the assessor sets property taxes. Wrong. Hopefully you got that through to you. The assessor does not set the property taxes. Your taxing jurisdiction bodies control the levies. Property tax levies and rates are set by the school boards, town boards, fire districts, county legislatures, not by the assessors. The assessor is only responsible for placing a fair assessment on your property. Okay, taxable state of state, we went over that, March 1st, very important date, every year, just not this year, every year it's a very important date. Get your exemptions in place then. This is again is a recapitulation of the important dates. You all have this in your handout. Pay attention to that. And that's the number that you can call. 315-812-1800 starting tomorrow. You can call that number. And if you email, you use that email address, somebody will get back to you on that as well. You can start using it tomorrow. When you get your notice, you can use those numbers. That 812-1800 number will be on your informational sheet that you're going to get. And like I started out with, the sky is not falling. Just be realistic on what your property value. If you own a property on the lake, your property values have gone up a fair amount. Okay, it's a relative. Okay, that's a subjective term. Okay, property values have gone up on the lake, and we look forward to the participation of everybody in the informal process. I look forward to talking to as many people as possible, calling that number, answering questions, and holding some hands, making sure that you get through this process. So I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule tonight to come here to this presentation. I was about 40, that was pretty close. I was about 48 minutes. So now we're going to open up the questions. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. You said something about a STAR hearing. I've been getting the STAR exemption. In order to continue getting it, I have to apply for it?
No, the SCAR and STAR. I said SCAR, S-C-A-R, that's the SCAR hearing. That's where you can challenge. That's the last process in the formal challenge. Yeah, and then you have the STAR exception, S-T-A-R. Then the enhanced STAR.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the enhanced, you have to apply each year for the enhanced. do you
No.
not?
No. You want to answer that? You don't have to apply for it. You apply for it once your first year, and that is eligible.
Unless a lot of bookkeepers will tell you not to file your income taxes, then the state will send them a worksheet every year.
But they'll be notified of that.
Yes. Well,
They should be.
should.
Okay. You are eligible for an enhanced STAR if you and your wife or you and your husband own the property when one of you, in the year one of you turns 65. Okay, you both don't have to be 65. Only one of you has to be 65 in this year. If you turn 65 in December, you can still qualify for the exemption for that year, for the taxable year.
What's the income limit?
Changes every year.
Yeah, that varies. I don't know if that's on the town website or.
I think it's 93.2 this year.
Okay.
93,200 this year.
Okay. Yeah, you're on a roll.
Yeah,
Go.
I have one more here because it's here that the informal hearings will be scheduled after the 1st of March.
Correct.
However, you said those letters, they're going to be coming out in 2 weeks.
They'll be coming out.
I'm gonna call the second day of March.
Oh, you're not gonna. You're gonna call after you get your
I have to
notice.
wait.
After you get your notice. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Don't. Yeah. Is this okay? Everybody.
I've been waiting
I got
a long
people. Yeah.
time
You're
for
waiting.
this, so-
People are anxiously. I'm gonna call. I'm gonna call. You don't know what your assessment's gonna be. Okay. Don't overreact. See what your assessment's gonna be. And don't complain if you have the informal review, or if you're calling me on the phone, don't say my assessment went up 50%. And I have no control over what your assessment was last year. All you can talk about with me and the informal reviewer, and quite frankly with the Board of Assessor Review, is what your assessment is this year. That's what we had input on. Your assessment, you might have been grossly underassessed last year. And there's some people who were grossly underassessed last year, and I know I'm gonna be hearing from them, okay? But then they're gonna complain, they're gonna complain about, we did the City of Buffalo. City of Buffalo, we did that 2 or 3 years ago, 95,000 parcels. We had property assessments they went from $75,000 to $500,000. Full value, $75,000. And believe it or not, most people did not call me up. Because they understood that, hey, I paid $400,000 for this property 5 years ago. This rest of the city has been subsidizing me. Now they got to pay their fair share. So you got to look at your own assessment. And is it a fair representation of what you could sell the property for? I'm not interested in how much your assessment went up, because we have no control over it. You got a question?
Now when we get these notices,
Disclosure, yeah, these are what we call disclosure notices, tax
you're saying
impact.
our houses are compared to 500 houses.
Correct.
Will that be on that?
No, those will not be on the
We
sheet.
have to come to you,
You have to come to us, and remember, you still have to provide sales. You can shoot down some of the sale perhaps. These are all computer generated. We're not just sitting there taking the high sales. Okay, we're not, you're gonna have to get sales off the website or whatever, and support your case, as well.
Joe, when will image may be updated so they can look at those?
Well, they gotta be done before the notices go out.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Those 5 sales that you're comparing to, that's on, they're getting a new assessment also.
yes,
They're
absolutely.
probably maybe challenging you too.
They could be. Yeah. But again, they got an additional burden. If your house didn't sell, you have one burden. If their house sold for $200,000 and they think it's only worth $170,000, that's a little extra burden that they have to get over. Another step. They got to prove that they, because we're going to have 4 other sales in addition to their sale that says their house is worth $200,000.
Since we got a 77% equalization rate, should we expect somewhere around 23% increase in our assessment?
No.
Why?
No, it should be, because that is the rate that is put on by the New York State, and I would say it's probably.
They came to the calculation that the assessments in the town are 77% of what 100% in the value should be. So why is it?
But remember that
we should expect the increase.
That 77% applies to every property in the town. It applies to lakefront properties that are going up at a much higher rate, faster rate. Equalization rates are very unfair, in my opinion, because they apply to everybody in every section of the town. I think 23% is probably low. It's probably low. But if your assessment went up 40%. What's that?
On here, it doesn't seem like it's, you're saying 183.
Yeah, that's a hypothetical example. That's nobody. So that went up 35%. That assessment went up. That assessment went up 35%, and the taxes went down.
Okay. Now you also talked about like you did commercial property. All of them? I mean,
Every commercial property.
The landfill.
Land. Yep. Everything.
Okay.
Everything.
And you'll notice that the landfill assessment is like 14 million, which seems egregious because that was around when they sued and got it lowered to 14,000 and got reimbursed $650,000 now. So they got reassessed, right? I mean, you said, well, commercial and
Every commercial property got assessed. Reassessed.
and with the exemptions, like churches and
They don't pay taxes.
they don't pay
They got
taxes.
assessed though, they got assessed.
But do you use their assessed value in the equation that comes to the?
No, but for the tax levy,
So it's like your property doesn't exist as far as the tax.
for taxable purposes, that you're right, correct.
What about the multiple businesses that got pilot agreements where they're only paying? How do,
Pilot agreements are not included in that figure either, I believe.
what do you mean?
I don't believe those are included in the
They're
total
assessments?
assessment. What's that? They pay a pilot, they don't
They
pay.
pay a pilot.
Yeah,
But we're subsidizing them, as you said, when people are underassessed. The rest of us are subsidizing them.
that's a negotiated pilot agreement that they.
Correct,
you know,
but
yeah.
that affects if their full assessment were involved in the equation, our tax rate would be lower, correct? Because they're not, say they're paying half they're what, if they're.
Yeah. But that's above the assessor's pay grade, that's above my pay grade, it's above the town board's pay grade. That decision is made at a higher level.
But, it comes down to, the people should know what we're subsidizing and by how much. Because, about pilot kind of agreements. And they're not. And we got no recourse to challenge.
On the pilots.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
I said,
the IDA gets them out, but they're unelected, and they're not. We should at least know how much in tax dollars we're subsidizing with all the pilots.
That's
Is there
a
way to
question.
figure- is
Again,
there a way of
okay, so
figuring-
you're making it, you're talking about, sir, and great questions. You're talking about a taxation problem. Remember, this is a valuation
No,
problem.
I know.
This is not a taxation.
Well, I just want to know what you evaluate, how you deal with that. I mean,
If it's on a pilot, and if it's, quite frankly, if it's on a pilot, we probably didn't do anything. If it's on a pilot.
The property is valued, got to still reevaluate, right? The
If it's
property
on-
value went up.
If it's under a pilot, it may not have been reassessed, because it's irrelevant. Because as you just said, it's not included. And I agree with you. So it doesn't come into play, because they have a negotiated payment that they're paying. So the
So they're
assessment,
ignored just like a not-for-profit and a tax-exempt profit?
in some cases, I'm not saying we did that here, in some cases I've seen that.
Well, you should know. Did you?
No, I didn't know,
Did you?
I'm the spokesperson, I didn't do the valuation.
Your company did.
My company did.
Did they do the valuation on properties that have pilot agreements?
We did a valuation. We did a valuation. I'm not gonna say if it was close to what the pilot was or not, I don't know.
You
I don't
wouldn't
know.
It's
know
close to
if
pilot.
it
The
was
pilot
on
is
a
the
pilot
one
or
who-
not.
Yeah.
You don't know if it's on a pilot or not. Your field workers inspected
That's for everything. So we valued it. Okay, thank
You
you.
valued
And you
it.
didn't know that.
You
So
didn't
we didn't,
know.
I didn't.
Pilot.
The value, the people who were valuing the property did.
And you're the one that did the,
My firm did, not me, not me, not me.
They were still touched.
it's your firm.
You don't know.
Used to be my firm. I'm not a partner anymore. I'm only, my name is first on the thing, but that's because I'm the oldest guy. They're keeping me around. Okay? Any other questions? No? All right, so just sit tight till you get your notice. If you have any questions, call the number, be happy to talk to you. And thank you again for coming out tonight.
And where are you at that number? Are you in town here?
Buffalo.
Oh, you're in Buffalo.
Yep. Yeah, we're in Buffalo. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Drive safe.
Absolutely. You have to.